They kept her high, not merely with substances and revelry, but with immense pressure, with profound silence, and with the sheer burden of relentless public scrutiny. She was the girl in every window, the face behind every whispered conversation, and for a period, it seemed to work, until it inevitably didn't. Everyone knows what she ultimately became. Few recall her humble beginnings. Thrust into an adult world with no roadmap, only demands to perform, adapt, and endure. Nobody took care, and instead of proper food, drugs and alcohol were served. That's how the industry operated then, and how it continues to function. It catapulted Kate Moss to stardom, and in the process, nearly shattered her. Like so many before her, she was scouted by chance. Sarah Dukas had just founded her own agency, Storm, and was scanning for new faces everywhere she went. At JFK Airport, while waiting for a delayed flight with her daughter and brother, she noticed the young girl at check-in. Something about her was different.
Yeah, I was on a holiday and it took us like 3 days to fly back, and the flight that we eventually got on back to London was the flight that Sarah was on.
And I turned around and Kate was checking in. She checked onto our flight just as it was closing.
And then you were able to track her down?
Yeah, we got up.
As soon as the seatbelt sign turned off, they approached. Dukas would later recall, "I didn't think I was going to change the face of modeling." But fate intervened. Kate's father had seen Dukas on television and agreed to a meeting in London. Her mother remained skeptical. Although Kate was initially hesitant, she agreed to travel to London for a first meeting. That moment set everything in motion. A life lived between cameras and control. No promises of glamour, but immense impact. The first jobs were harmless. Teen catalogs, department store spreads. But as she started entering the world of fashion photography, the tone changed. Dukas did her best. She had promised Kate she would turn her into a star. Corinne Day was one of the first photographers to work with her. There were no stylists, no flattering lights, just a camera lens and a silence that seeped deep into your bones. Her gaze drifted past the lens, unfocused and distant, as if an inner part of her resisted being captured. You could see her very young, almost childlike presence, a fragile, untouched quality that had something ethereal about it. Her lips were sealed, unreadable, not in rebellion, but as though words themselves had no business being there. Nonetheless, the pictures resonated. The impact came not from what she gave, but from what she withheld.
We did have so much fun doing those shoots,
Yeah.
but then Corinne was so particular and didn't. We were best friends by that. I think Drew had like a VW Beetle,
Yeah.
and we'd all just pile in and just like do pictures.
Yeah. So from your point of view, what are you seeing? You're looking out from that perspective. So we're seeing you, and everybody knows that shot. But what were you seeing?
Corinne and that lot all just hanging out on the beach. She didn't really know what she was doing either.
But were you laughing out of happiness, or?
I think, yeah, I mean, we did laugh. We were stoned a lot
Right.
at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone was smoking, especially if it was the 90s. I mean, we just, you know, and I was really young and...
But not all shoots felt safe. Years later, she shared memories of being asked to remove her top and bra during a shoot, despite her discomfort. She ran, and she would remember. In another interview, she recalled posing topless in 1992 while feeling vulnerable and scared. Valium was prescribed before the shoot. These became anecdotes, but they spoke of a pattern: young girls being pushed too far, too soon. A pattern that, thankfully, today is increasingly recognized and challenged. Still, those photographs struck a deep chord. The fashion industry was searching for new faces, different from the polished glam of the 80s. Some labeled it heroin chic.
Harper's Bazaar with Patrick DiMarcello, which was my first big story in America. No, I wasn't on the cover of that one, I was on the cover of Christmas. Patrick was shooting Calvin, who then told Calvin about me, and then I met Calvin, then I did Calvin Klein. That's when everything changed.
By the early 1990s, her likeness was inescapable. It graced billboards and bus stops, filled glossy magazine spreads, and seemed etched into the very fabric of a decade that wavered between idolizing defiance and embracing vulnerability. Kate Moss became an immediate reference point for something elusive, something people couldn't quite articulate, yet universally desired.
Can you unbutton the top button of those jeans? No. Why don't you push them down a little bit?
No, I don't think so.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm on the spot.
You've been on the spot before.
Not like this.
As she became the face of Calvin Klein, minimalism was the prevailing aesthetic. She stood beside Mark Wahlberg, partially clad, her stance reserved, her gaze elsewhere. The lens didn't capture allure. It captured a palpable unease. What the images didn't reflect was her truth. She felt diminutive, isolated, and disconnected from her own form. The campaign soared. Her likeness traversed the globe. Her quietude, her reserve, her hesitation transformed into fashion benchmarks.
She pulled such a powerful emotion from me. I just was completely taken by photographing her and loved photographing her.
It was a kind of genuine cool that couldn't be fabricated, precisely because it wasn't a performance. And from that moment forward, ownership of her physical self slipped away.
Okay.
Obsession.
She evolved into a complex array of symbols, a mood board before the term gained currency. Designers celebrated her understated demeanor. Advertisers banked on her inherent stillness. Yet beneath the surface, something shifted. The tabloids began their scrutiny, not with admiration, but with a voracious appetite. They fixated on her frame, on her voice that rarely surfaced, on her seemingly inert quality. They branded her too slim, too subdued, too sick, yet she graced their covers. She was 19 without the shield of a PR team, without a buffer, just a young woman with a singular expression, onto which 1,000 projections were cast. Behind that stillness, something was beginning to fracture.
This was one of my favourites. Oh, Jean-Paul Gaultier's in the picture. This is a Vivienne Westwood show, in those heels as well. That skirt, I've got one. And Lila, she's like, Mummy, it's so short. Yeah, you're supposed to see your knickers.
In 1994, she entered a relationship with Johnny Depp. They were young, wild, and extremely famous. He, 11 years her senior, gave her a kind of anchor. Both were busy and tried to make it work. For almost 5 years it did. They burned fast and quietly ended. But for those years, it felt like someone was holding the weight with her. She once said, "I missed him for a long time. There was no one else who really took care of me. Johnny did." Despite standing just 5'7" far from the statuesque ideal, Kate Moss would go on to walk for Chanel, Dior, Versace, and countless others. Her presence defied proportions. She didn't fill space. She rewrote its rules. By 2005, those fissures had deepened. Kate Moss was no longer merely a model. She had become a myth. Familiar, iconic, untouchable. But the truth behind that image was far less pristine. She began a relationship with Pete Doherty, a man who embodied chaos. Frontman of the Libertines and Baby Shambles, he was a self-destructive poet, a magnet for overdose headlines. The tabloids declared them doomed. He called her his muse. Together, they became a spectacle. Hotel corridors, taxis, flashbulbs, they appeared both exquisite and broken. Then came the footage.
Pete had gotten himself involved with a lot of useless people and had a lot of hangers-on who would alert paparazzi where Pete and Kate were likely to turn up, usually at the Boogaloo in North London, and would get handsomely paid for their efforts.
September 15th, 2005. A grainy video leaked from a studio. Kate, white lines, silence. The repercussions were swift. Burberry, H&M, Chanel. One by one, the contracts dissolved. She remained silent. No press conference, no apology, just a written statement, a promise to seek help. Authorities launched an investigation. While Pete spiraled, Kate vanished. She left the country. In Arizona, she found something London couldn't offer: silence. No cameras outside clinics, no journalists in parked cars, just stillness. In rehab, no one knew what was being rebuilt or what was being left behind. Her recovery wasn't marked by spectacle. No interviews, no redemptive narrative. It happened off the record, off camera, without design. She reappeared quietly, a casting, a familiar face. Her return wasn't framed as a statement. It just was. Later, in Paris, a moment unfolded that would signal her quiet reclaiming of presence. Alexander McQueen's show. A glass box, smoke, silence. Her image projected in midair. She didn't walk. She turned slowly. For some, it was fashion's most haunting moment.
They put me in the dress, put me on a harness, and then I span around, like wafting. He said it was like he wanted me to be like a wisp, like a phoenix rising and then going into a fairy and wisping away.
She walked again, appeared in magazines, the same profile, the same restraint. No documentaries, no interviews, just forward motion. She collaborated again, on her terms. She joked, reflected, edited herself mid-sentence. It wasn't about transparency, it was about control. And when Victoria's Secret called, long after her runway years were thought to be over, she walked. The lights caught her on the runway, not to illuminate, but to reflect. In recent years, her smiles have felt warmer, her words measured. She speaks more, but never louder, as if raising her voice would surrender something hard-won. In the past decade, Kate Moss has quietly redefined her role in fashion, not by fading away, but by stepping forward on her own terms. In 2016, she founded the Kate Moss Agency, mentoring emerging talent like Rita Ora and Esme Creed Miles. She has also entered creative collaborations, most notably 2 capsule collections with Zara in 2024 and 2025. Blending her signature archive style into high street fashion, in spring 2025, she reconnected with her 90s roots as the face of Donna Karan's revived line. And in 2021, she became the face of Kim Kardashian's Skims underwear, reaffirming her influence across generations. Through it all, she has remained present, measured, selective, and unmistakably Kate.